Hello, Marie. Yeah, you just wrote me that you're looking for a teaching about everything is impermanent. There was none, so I'm making one just for your group. The Buddhist teachings of impermanence is part of a threefold teaching, and one of the main core teachings of the Buddha that he said after his enlightenment. He said, everything is bound to unsatisfactoriness, everything is impermanent, and everything is non-self. So everything is not personal in the way we think it is personal. So the concept of anicca, everything is impermanent, is so important that I tattooed it on my arm to look at it, so that I never ever forget. So, and when we look in this world, is that our mind is usually bound to a linear thinking. So time is linear, it starts at one point, it ends at one time. Space in our mind is linear, just the space starts somewhere and ends somewhere. And, so are most of our concepts really linear from A to B. And in the Asian thinking, it's completely different. And so what the Buddha was actually saying, that if you observe nature, then you see the seasons. Life is always coming and going in cycles. We have the seasons, the leaves and the trees are growing and, just flowering and giving birth, so to say. And then, everything dries and the leaves are falling, they're decomposing, and they become, plants again. So the cycle is just going on. When you see our universe, our universe is constantly expanding, and physicists are saying that probably when you see, the outer space in, over millenniums, there is a theory that, the universe expands and contracts and expands and contracts. So are all our cells, our cells are always, just compressing and expanding, and, our breath is like this, just it's the in and out. Everything runs in circles. The problem is also our mind always runs in the same circles, but that's a different topic. The law of nature is that everything is in constant change. Everything is in constant development. But our human mind would like to attach to things. Yeah. So we easily get attached to our dog, our cat, our partner, our city, our nation, the food we eat, and stuff like this. And the Buddha was saying the first law of nature is that everything is bound to unsatisfactoriness. So if your mind is holding on to something which is constantly changing, then, you hurt yourself. It's like a train which is constantly moving. You try to hold on and keep it in the way where you want it to be, then suffering will arise. And that's the same thing with us, like our mind does not necessarily want to change, even if we think we do. If you ask people, would you like to grow old and wrinkly? And, do you like to get, all these aches and pains in your body? Everybody would say, no. This is why people, spend so much, in yoga courses, because they hear if you stand on your head, then, you get younger and you eat good food. And most of the time it's not about being healthy. It's most of the time for people about vanity and, not wanting to age. And, when you look at your partner, or maybe if you have been traveling, you have made this experience that you leave and you travel the world and you have so many amazing experiences which really change your personality. And then you come back and you meet your friends, and the friends don't want necessarily the new version of you. They would like to have the old version back, and they get really irritated, about who you became. And that happens also a lot of times in relationships. We are in relationship, and you don't necessarily love your partner. You love the picture, what you have in your head of your partner. And a lot of times this, this picture of what you have in your mind and the real person is not the same, and the people just, they develop. And sometimes they develop in different directions. So holding on to something which is changing is causing suffering. And this is what the Buddha was pointing out. So, and if your mind is able to tune in to the law of impermanence, that means that your mind is in line with how nature actually is, then you can become completely free. It is Ajahn Chah, the famous Buddhist teacher. He said one time, just imagine life is like your favorite cup. He had a very beautiful cup from China, and he said, imagine this cup has a crack already. It's still holding water, but you can see the crack already. So he said, some people think when they hear their teaching of the law of impermanence, they say, oh, that's so depressing, everything is changing, and, maybe my boyfriend will not love me anymore and stuff like this. But he said, imagine your life is like this cup with a crack. Already, that there's a crack. So instead of getting frustrated, you try to take care of the cup as good as you can. You just put it down very slowly, very mindful, and, you try to, move it somewhere where it cannot easily fall. But when it will, finally something will happen and it cracks and it's done, you're not so upset. You say, yeah, I knew it had a crack. I knew it will come one day. That the cup will be destroyed. This is a mind which is in line with the law of impermanence, which doesn't mean that we come to a mind state of like, oh, everything is impermanent, why should I care? Everything is coming and going, why should I build it up in the first place? The art is, the law of impermanence can make your mind get into a very, very beautiful state that like every single, meeting or contact you have with somebody, every single day with your partner, could be the last moment you have, because most people live their life based on the idea that I live forever. Yeah, so if you would start to really go into the mind state where you realize, wait a second, I don't know if I have another 10 years to live. I don't know if, today is maybe my last day, what would change inside of you? And we had one volunteer, she wanted to come to the Mindfulness Project so badly. And she booked a flight, she flew here, she applied, but we were full. We told her, look, the earliest you can come is in 1 month. So she decided to go with her boyfriend to Koh Samui. That was the good times where we were still allowed to travel and stuff like this. So, and they were hanging out on the island, and they decided to make a walk into the jungle. And so it was super beautiful, and in the end they made a rest at a river with a waterfall, and she sat down and was writing her diary and, just digesting a lot of stuff, and then it was time to go. She couldn't find her boyfriend. So the group started to look around, and he was not there. They looked, even further, and then the guide said, look, it's going to be dark, and that's not you cannot be in the jungle when it's getting dark, so we need to leave and inform the police. So they did that. And then 6 hours later, the police knocked at her door and said, we're so sorry, but we found your boyfriend. He drowned in the river. So they think, that he wanted to make a photo from the top of the waterfall down, and maybe he slipped and then he just fell into the river and died. He was just gone like this. And I have a couple of people I know where that happened, that their partner just died, having a stroke in the park. They were just walking in the park and suddenly he dropped dead, while they were holding hands. So, and if you meet these people, for them these teachings of impermanence have a super, super powerful message, just like what would change if your mind would be really connected with this truth? How would you actually live your life when you have on your mind, maybe this is my last day? How would you live this day? With my wife Anya, a lot of times when we have a fight or argument with each other, and we cannot, we're too hooked with each other and stuff like this, and it's getting late, then we ask ourselves, like when somebody's leaving and needing to go to work, should this be the way how we maybe interact the last time in our lives anymore? And then we decide to, that we don't want that. And this teachings of impermanence gives me a lot of peace in my mind, that I feel like that everything is so precious. This makes my life so beautiful because I don't take anything for granted. I don't take my friends for granted. Don't take my parents for granted, or that I have money on my bank account. And every time when you have this mind state, everything becomes so valuable. And gratitude is one of the most important practices you can do to remind yourself what you have, to remind yourself how rich you are in your life, how gifted you are that you have so many amazing friends. And another thing is, like, for example, if you hear from one of your best friends that he or she had to go to a hospital and get the diagnosis, like terminal cancer, which happened to a good friend of mine now, and you want to visit this person in hospital, knowing that he or she doesn't have a long time to live. Would you go into this hospital and say, wait, before you go, I really have to tell you a couple of important things. 1 year ago, you really treated me really bad, and I never said something, but I was really pissed off about it. Second, I think you're a really vain person, and I find you very egoistic at times. I really want to tell you that before you die, before you leave. Will you do that? No. So the teaching of impermanence teaches you that in this moment you would just forget about the fights. You would forget about the misunderstandings you had with each other. You would, forget about the, problematic sides of this person. You would just go there and, try to have the best time ever with this person, and not thinking about, that you have to overcome some different misunderstandings or something like this. You would just go there and try to give as much love as you can to this person, and probably you will have a beautiful time with each other. And that's the teaching of impermanence. It's it's evoking love and compassion inside of you, because in the face of death, everything becomes completely, just not so important anymore. I remember when my mother died, I had the nightmare of a childhood. It really was so bad. She was an alcoholic. I was dragging her at night out of the pubs and stuff like this. And, then I didn't have contact with her for 14 years or something like this. And then I heard that she's going to die, and I was taking care of her the last 3 months of her life. And in this time, that was the most healing times I ever had, because in this moment the past was gone. Why should I still be angry with this old dying person in front of me? So when she was, before she was dying, I was holding her hand, we were looking at each other, and peace came into my mind. And so this is, if you don't wait until somebody dies, don't wait until you make these experiences, try to live every single day as if it would be your last day. Just really enjoy it, let it sink in. See that the coronavirus has, turned our whole world, upside down. What we took for granted before, our freedom to meet people, our freedom to travel, is just gone in 1 minute. And sometimes we're sitting here and realizing how incredible, lucky and fortunate have we been that we had such freedom, such beauty. And, and this is coming up now, and you can do that now, just be so happy for what you have, be so happy about the people you meet. And so in the end, I would like to tell you a little story. It's a Zen story about a king. And this king, he was always tortured by 3 questions he had. He was not sure what is the most important thing to do, what's the most important person in my life, and what's the most important time in my life. So so he was searching around, he was meeting, all these wise people, and they couldn't really give him an answer. So then he heard that up in the mountains there was a hermit living, and he's supposed to be the wisest of the wisest. And so this king, was getting all his, people who cared for him, and some soldiers, and had a whole bunch of people, bringing him into the mountain. It was a couple of days journey, and it was really cold. So, and then finally, after this, difficult travel, they came to the cave of the hermit. And the king stepped in. It was a beautiful view over the mountain. And the hermit was just sitting there in meditation, and their king was going like, excuse me. And so he opened his eyes, looked at him, and the king said, I don't want to take too much time for you, but I really need to find out what's the most important thing to do in life, who's the most important person in life, and, what's the most important time in my life? I really need to find that out. And the hermit said, that's easy questions. And the king was like, yeah, great. So the hermit said, okay, stand here on the rock, on the edge of the cave. And the king was just looking down, and just went a couple of 100 meters down there. It was a cliff, basically. So the hermit went into the back of the cave, came back, stood in front of the king directly. They looked into each other's eyes, and then from the back, he got a samurai sword, and he just pointed it to his neck. And the hermit said, I guess you know the answers already. And, so the hermit says, okay, who's the most important person in your life? He's standing there with a sword on his neck. And the king was like, you? He said, yes, And then, what's the most important time in your life? And, the king was like, now. Yes, exactly. And what is the most important thing to do in your life? And the king was looking, and then he said, maybe love. And then he took the sword back, went back in meditation, and, sat down. In this moment, the king realized, the most important person in your life is the person right in front of you. So if you're doing this talking circle right now, these people here are maybe the last people you ever see in your life. How would you treat them? How do you want to treat them? How do you look at them? The most important time in your life is always now, in this moment. Don't think back. Don't project always in the future. Just really live the moment and think about how can I do the most out of it. And what's the most important thing to do? It's love. It's, just giving love to the people around you, just giving what you can so that we can create paradise for each other. If we, now in the talking circle, if we listen to each other, really deeply listen, that's the greatest gift you can give to somebody, because listening to somebody with an open heart means healing, Listening to somebody with an open heart, just gives energy and trust and, just creates harmony around people because it makes you understand. So the talking circle's not just, to meet people and, fulfill your desires for human contact. Is one of the most incredible and most beautiful things you can do in life. And so be aware of that and realize that everything can change in minutes. So if you, look at other people, look at them as impermanent. They might leave tomorrow. They might die soon. How do you want to treat them? And also look at yourself, with the eyes of impermanence. Everything is changing inside of me. What I have, believed in when I, 10 years ago, is not what I believe today. What I will believe in 10 years is not what I believe now. So I know everything is changing and is changing on a day-to-day basis. If I look at my wife, some people are like, oh, I'm, together with her for 19 years. I know her in and out. Or I look at her and in every single morning, I go like, okay, let's have a look who I am married to today. And that makes my relationship super exciting, and it fills me with gratitude and, this sense of adventure and freshness, and that is what meditation is for, that you're able to see every single moment as fresh and new, even though you think you have done the same thing yesterday and the day before. Yeah? I wish you a wonderful talking circle. Marie, thank you so much for doing it. And I'm sending you all my love and gratitude into this world. And have a good day.